So you got a ball python starter kit. What is all this stuff? Let's have a look at how to set it up. Hi, it's Brian from Bluegrass Exotics, and today we're going to go through the contents of a basic ball python starter kit. This is the kit we sell. You might have got a similar kit from your local pet retailer. Wherever it came from, it probably has just about the same basic stuff in it. So today we're going to go through each of the components, see what they do, and how to get this whole thing set up and running. So the first thing we have is an aquarium. This is a 10-gallon aquarium, and you'll notice that it also comes with a screen lid. Let's take some of these things out and see what else it comes with. So there are a couple ways to heat these, and we recommend a heat dome and a ceramic heat emitter, or a CHE. These things are really good, and we'll see how to use this thing safely in just a few minutes. In order to know if you're using it safely, you need a thermometer and hygrometer. That's going to keep track of your temperature and the humidity. I also got some leaf clutter, optional. You can have your own decorations however you like. We've got some screen clips for the screen top. Got a water bowl. We've got a dimmer switch for the ceramic heat emitter. Got a little hide, and we've got some substrate. This is a cocoa husk based substrate. Your starter kit may have come with aspen, and we'll talk about the differences between those, but this is the contents of the kit. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is put the substrate in the bottom. Like I said earlier, our kits, most of them anyway, unless we discuss with the buyer, most of our kits come with cocoa substrate. And yours may come with aspen. The very, very last thing we're going to do, apart from monitoring temperatures, is pour some water in here. If your kit came with aspen, you do not want to pour water in the bottom of it, like we're going to do with the cocoa. But the first thing we're going to do is get a nice cocoa base down. We're looking for coverage of about a half an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch. If you want to go up to an inch, that's okay. But we definitely want a good amount of coverage. This looks like a good amount to me. It's dry to the touch right now, but like I said, we're going to worry about that later. So now we've got some substrate in. What's next? And now it's time to decorate and put in the rest of the stuff inside the tank that we need inside the tank. And the first thing we're going to start with is hide. So we're going to end up wanting some cover on both ends of the tank. We're going to have a warm side of the tank, and we're going to have a cooler side of the tank. So I'm going to set up the nice hide over here on the warm side. I'm going to put a water dish right in front of it. Then I'm going to set up some of this leaf clutter over here on this side of the tank. So this kind of acts like a hide in the sense that the snake can crawl through here and feel a little secure, and they may choose to retreat over here to get away from some of the heat that we're going to put over here on this side of the tank. And to make sure things don't get too warm, we're going to put a thermometer right there, right in the center. While you're getting this set up, make sure you can see the thermometer really easily. So we're going to put the screen top on now, and we're going to talk about the heating components. Alright, I've taken the rest of the tank away for just a moment because I really want to talk about the heating elements and how to properly heat the tank. So what we've got here is a ceramic heat emitter, or a CHE, and it has screws on the back of it, or a screw just like a light bulb that would screw in anywhere a light bulb would screw in. But no light comes out of this thing, only heat. Here we have a dome fixture that you could screw a basking light into, but instead we're going to screw the ceramic heat emitter into it. And then this thing sits down on top of the screen top of your tank. So it radiates heat down. A lot of people will heat a tank from the bottom. I think that's a poor solution. A lot of times that only heats the very bottom of the tank and only the belly of the snake. So you can get the belly of the snake up to 86, 88 degrees, but sometimes it's still breathing in 72 degree air. The great advantage that the ceramic heat emitters have is that they heat not just the bottom of the tank, but the whole tank, including the air inside. But the problem with CHEs is they get hot, really hot, like several hundred degrees hot. And you need some sort of regulator, either a thermostat or a dimmer switch, to make sure that the ceramic heat emitter is not getting too hot for your animal. So our starter kits come with the dimmer switch, and this thing has a plug on this side and an outlet on this side. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug the ceramic heat emitter lamp into, there we go, into this dimmer switch. And we're going to plug the dimmer switch into the wall. So this goes into the outlet just like this. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take the switch and we're going to turn it all the way down. Which way is down? This is down. We're going to turn it all the way down. And we're going to start off with the power all the way down on this thing. And we're going to flip this thing on, put it on top of the tank, and we're going to have it sit there for an hour and see what that does to the inside temperature of the tank. If we come back in an hour and the temperature is not where we want it, we're going to take this and we're going to slide this up just a tiny little bit. We're going to test it again. We're going to come back in another hour and see. So if I bring the tank back, excuse me just a second. This thing is going to sit right up there. This thing is going to get plugged into the wall. And now you've got your dimmer switch here. So you don't need to mess with this once you get it set correctly. Once you get it set correctly, this is very much a set it and forget about it sort of thing. You might need to adjust it seasonally. So if your house tends to get a little cooler in the autumn and the winter, you might need to bump this up just a little bit for a few months during the year. And then when spring and summer rolls around, you might need to flip it back down just a little bit. You do want to keep your thermometer in the tank all year round, because that thing is the window into how your snake is feeling on the inside. If your snake is the right temperature, 99 times out of 100, your snake is going to be healthy. So the thermometer is the most important thing to making sure that your snake is healthy. So that is how to work the heating element, and I can feel this thing is getting hot already. Before we get back to the tank setup, there's one more thing I wanted to go over. In order to help hold your humidity in, you may want to take some aluminum foil and put it over a portion of your screen lid. So you can have your heat sitting here, and then some aluminum foil will help humidity from escaping throughout the entirety of the screen top. You can use aluminum foil, you can use like a heavy plastic of some kind, you can use, a lot of people use foam board, you can use pretty much anything you want. And if you want to use some duct tape to keep the thing in place, make sure it's on the outside of the lid. You don't want anything sticky in your tank with your reptile. That way you can have a heat source over here, and then this side of the screen lid is covered to help hold humidity in. People that are big proponents of tubs say that tubs are much easier because they hold humidity a lot better, and tanks are terrible because the screen tops let all the humidity out. And in order to help combat the screen lid letting all the humidity out, just find some sort of something to put over at least a portion of your screen lid to help keep the humidity in. But you also want to make sure that whatever you put on your screen lid is not flammable, because the heat domes can get very hot. Alright, so now that we've got the heating worked out, we're going to need to add a little bit of water to the tank. So I'm going to take a little bit of water and I'm going to pour it right down in the water bowl. And if a little bit spills out, that's okay. Because now, since I'm using cocoa, I'm going to add just a little bit of moisture to the rest of the tank. So I've added enough moisture here that the cocoa is now a little bit damp, but there is no standing water in the bottom. That's really important. And if you're adding, if you're using an aspen substrate instead of a cocoa, you do not want to add any water directly to the aspen. The aspen will mold very easily on you. The cocoa can sit a little damp and be really good for your snake without molding. Aspen is going to be for use in environments where the entire ambient room is humidified rather than the individual enclosure. But for most people, a cocoa husk substrate with a dampened cocoa husk substrate is going to be the right answer for most people in most environments. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put the heat back on the top. We're going to let this thing run for an hour, and we're going to come back and check the temperature. Alright, it's been about an hour, and I'm here to check on my temperature, and I'm sure you can't see it because of the glare, but the thermometer is reading about 82 degrees. Humidity is about 81%, and that's going to drop slowly over the next couple days because I've just dumped a bunch of water in here an hour ago. So that'll dissipate down. You want to keep humidity at close to 60. If it gets up to 80, it's really no big deal. But you definitely want it above 50 if possible. So I'm still not happy with the temperature of 82. So I'm going to put this back. I'm going to adjust my dimmer a little bit and crank the heat up just a hint. And I'm going to come back and recheck it in an hour. Alright, it's been another hour, and my temperature is sitting at 84 degrees. So it's up a little bit, but not up enough. So I'm going to crank the heat a little bit more and check on it again in another hour. But this brings up a really good point that needs talked about. This is why we start at nearly off and then work our way up rather than starting somewhere in the middle and then trying to adjust one way or the other. The ambient temperature of your house is probably between 70 and 72 degrees. A snake can survive, a ball python can survive a long time without, days without a heat source at 70 or 72 degrees. It's not good for your snake, but it won't hurt it or kill it. On the other hand, these things get really hot, and actually, that's hot to the touch. I can feel the heat coming off of it. If you put your snake in here too early and your heat is too warm and the temperature gets to be 110, 120 degrees, your snake cannot last nearly as long at 100 or 120 degrees as it can at 70. So we're trying to avoid damage and death to your snake. So let it be at 70. Don't feel like you need to be in a hurry to get this thing up to heat. You want to bring it up from room temperature gently and slowly. You certainly don't want to crank this thing, walk away, come back, check on it in an hour, and have it be 120 degrees in your tank, especially if you've already put your snake in. I always recommend trying to set your tank up before you get the snake. I know it's not always possible. A lot of people get the snake and the setup at the same time. That's the reality of the situation. But when possible, get your temperatures right first. And while you're trying to adjust your temperature, bring your temperature up slowly rather than starting in the middle and adjusting from there. So I'm going to crank the heat and I'm going to come back in another hour. Alright, so I'm back again, and the thermometer right in the center of the tank is reading 86 degrees, and that is exactly what I want. So if it's 86 right in the center of the tank, I can assume it's a little bit warmer over here and a little bit cooler over here, which is perfect. What we really want is a temperature gradient from about 90 degrees or just below 90 to 80 degrees or just above 80 somewhere over here. So if it's 86 right in the middle, that feels like a really good temperature for me. I think this thing is ready for a snake. If I were going to put a snake in here, I would go ahead and put it in, and then I might move the thermometer either to on top of the hide or even throw it inside the hide to get a good reading for what kind of temperature it's reading inside the hide. So I might put the thermometer inside the hide, leave that for an hour, come back, check it out, and then after that I would put it over here in the cool side to make sure the cool side is not getting too cold. If my cool side is dropping a lot below 80 degrees, I'm going to solve that problem by making the heat source a little more central to the tank. On the other hand, if your right side of your tank is 89 degrees and the left side of your tank is only 87, then you might want to take this and even push it off just a little bit. Now you want to be really careful with this because this is hot, and if it falls on carpet, you don't want it to start a fire. If it falls, it's probably going to break. So, you know, neither of those things are optimal outcomes. So I would not leave this thing, you know, that far off, but this far off, such that even if it gets knocked or bumped a little bit, it's not going anywhere, would be fine. So that way you've got a lot of radiant heat over here, and then it would slowly dissipate over here to give you a little bit more of a temperature gradient. But the key thing is you really want somewhere between 89 degrees over here on the warm side and 80 degrees on the cool side. And if you have to settle somewhere in the middle, 86 is a really good spot to settle in the middle. So I think this thing's ready for a snake. I hope you guys got your tank set up as easily and as quickly as I did mine. And thanks for watching.